Please subscribe. It helps a lot.
Somewhere near Hackettstown, New Jersey, 2025. Parker's phone lit the dashboard in soft blue as another notification buzzed through. He ignored it and tightened his grip on the steering wheel. The highway stretched ahead in a gray ribbon, the road empty except for the reflection of his own headlights. He knew what the message would say. His boyfriend never stopped sending instructions. Change the lighting in your room, do another private session. Wear less next time. Parker's jaw clenched. He had agreed to the cam work on his own, or so he told himself. But every day it felt less like a choice. The money had come easy, attention easier still, and yet each time he sat in front of the camera, he felt hollow. His boyfriend praised the tips, called him lucky to look the way he did. Luck felt like a chain. The car's air vents carried cool air over his arms. He wore a thin t-shirt that clung to his swimmer's frame, the same frame his subscribers adored. The same frame his boyfriend said was their ticket to freedom. Parker no longer knew what freedom meant. He wanted silence, a locked door, a place where no one demanded another show. His eyes caught the glow of the phone again. Another buzz. He pictured his boyfriend leaning on the counter at home, smirking while messages poured out, guiding Parker's night as if Parker were a product. While there were some people who thrived doing this kind of work, Parker realized too late that it wasn't the life for him. He missed privacy. He missed being looked at without it meaning money. He wondered if he had mistaken desire for love. The road hummed under the tires. He tried focusing on the rhythm of the lines flashing beneath him, but his mind refused to quiet. His boyfriend's voice echoed in memory, praising his body as if that were all Parker contained. The words twisted inside him, building pressure until he thought he might scream, just to hear his own sound instead. A set of headlights appeared in the opposite lane, washing him in a glare. He blinked, rubbed at his temple, and glanced again at the phone, though he knew he should not. Another buzz. He saw the preview of the message. Need you online in 10 minutes. Don't be late. Something inside him snapped. His foot pressed harder on the accelerator. He whispered, though no one could hear, "I'm not your showpiece." The road curved, and his attention slid back too late. The front tire clipped the edge of the shoulder. Gravel popped against the frame. He jerked the wheel, tried to straighten, but the car swung wide. Headlights split across the trees at the roadside. He slammed the brake. Sound tore open the night. Metal screamed. Glass exploded around him. His chest crushed against the seatbelt. A light, brighter than any screen, filled his vision until he could no longer tell if his eyes were open. Then silence. For a moment, Parker thought he floated. No weight, no car, no body. His thoughts scattered, then pressed tight again, as if a hand closed around them. He wanted to breathe but felt no air. He wanted to move but felt no ground. A voice somewhere called a name that did not belong to him. Charlie. The name repeated, urgent, followed by others. The words blurred, muffled as if underwater. He tried to open his mouth, yet nothing came. Light shifted. Shadows bent. He felt a sharp tug, then pain that rushed into his chest, his arms, his skull. His senses snapped back, but the world had changed. The ceiling above him held fluorescent panels, some flickering at the edges. A calendar hung on the wall to the left, the pages curled. His eyes caught the numbers, then the year written bold across the top. 1975. The sound of voices grew clearer. He turned his head with effort and saw faces gathered near the bed. Young faces, worried, leaning close as if they loved him. A girl pressed her hand to his wrist. "Charlie, you're awake," she whispered, tears caught in her lashes. Parker blinked. His throat scraped when he tried to speak. "Who? Don't move," another boy said. His tone carried authority, but also fear. "You're hurt. The doctors will come back soon." None of them looked familiar. Yet each gaze carried warmth, recognition, as if they knew him deeply. Parker forced his eyes toward the cabinet across from the bed. A mirror hung above it. The reflection nearly stopped his breath. He saw his own face, dirty blonde hair combed back in a style he never wore, brown eyes rimmed red from strain. The jawline remained his, the body beneath the gown remained his, but the styling, the setting, the year on the wall, none belonged. He whispered, "I'm not Charlie." The group glanced at one another, confused. One girl reached out and stroked his arm. "You hit your head, Charlie. Don't scare us like that. You and Frank are lucky to be alive." "Frank?" The name stumbled off his tongue. The door opened. A figure stepped in with slow, careful movement. A young man close to Parker's age, wrapped in bandages around his temple and wrist. His eyes, pale gray, searched the room until they landed on Parker. He smiled faintly, though the smile seemed forced. "Charlie," one of the friends said, gesturing. "Frank is here." The stranger nodded but said nothing. He walked to the side of the bed, lowered himself into the chair, and sat still, his gaze locked on Parker. Parker stared back. Something in the stranger's silence unsettled him. Unlike the others, the stranger did not rush to comfort, did not speak as if he knew Parker. He only looked, long enough for Parker to feel a weight in the air. The friends filled the room with chatter, talking about recovery, the accident, plans to bring them home soon. Parker nodded when expected, though his mind spun. When the group left to give the patients rest, the room fell quiet. The stranger leaned forward, voice low. "My name isn't Frank," he said. "It's Otto." Parker's breath caught. Otto continued, his accent faint. "I was on a train, near here but in 1925. The train left the tracks. I remember the noise, the light. Then I woke here. They think I am someone else." Parker's pulse pounded in his ears. He whispered, "You too?" Otto gave a single nod. His gaze softened, though his voice carried no comfort. "Who are you?" Parker opened his mouth, closed it again, then finally answered, "Parker. From 2025. Neither spoke for a long moment. The beeping machines filled the silence. Outside the door, footsteps echoed down the hall. Otto leaned back slowly, studying Parker with sharp focus. "Then we are both out of place." Parker looked at the mirror again, at the year stamped on the calendar. The truth pressed down on him, heavier than the seatbelt that had once cut into his chest. He wanted to deny it, to explain it away, but the faces of strangers, the clothes on the nurses, the smell of old disinfectant, all screamed the same impossible fact. He was not in his time. He was not in his life. And the only other person who knew the truth sat across from him, staring with those brown eyes that seemed to read everything he could not yet say. The night pressed in through the hospital windows. Machines clicked and hummed. Parker stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint sound of Otto breathing across the room. Neither of them had spoken much since the moment they shared their truth. It was too heavy, too large, too strange. Parker tried to close his eyes, but the thought of the calendar returned each time. 1975. He told himself it was a mistake, that he was hallucinating after the crash, but the details were too sharp. The polyester curtains, the rotary phone at the nurse's desk, the magazines stacked on the counter, their covers yellowed with age. None of it belonged to 2025. He turned on his side. Otto sat upright in his bed, gaze fixed on the floor. The man's profile looked cut from stone, calm and unshaken. Parker envied it. Parker spoke first. "What is this? Are we dead?" "I do not think so," Otto said. "I feel alive. I feel pain. My arm aches. My head bleeds." The simplicity of his tone steadied Parker more than any comfort could have. He pulled the thin blanket over his chest and tried to let his body rest, but his mind refused to settle. By morning, the friends returned. They filled the room with flowers and chatter. One boy carried a stack of clothes folded neatly. A girl leaned close and brushed Parker's hair with her hand. They spoke to him as if they had known him for years, calling him Charlie, laughing at inside jokes that meant nothing to him. Parker forced a smile. His pulse thudded under his skin. but he nodded and answered softly, trying not to reveal the truth. He glanced at Otto often. The man sat in silence, giving small smiles where expected. When the nurses came to check their vitals, Otto looked at Parker once, a small signal. Parker understood. If either of them spoke, doctors would see confusion and call it head trauma. They would keep them longer, maybe forever. The only way forward was to lie. That evening, when the room emptied, Otto leaned toward him. "You must play along," he said. "We cannot show fear. If we say we are lost, they will not let us leave." Parker's chest tightened. "But what if they ask questions we can't answer?" "Then we listen first. We answer carefully. We tell them what they expect, until we find a way out." The firmness in Otto's tone made Parker's stomach knot. He wanted to argue, to say he could not pretend to be someone else, but the memory of the strangers' worried faces returned. They already believed he was Charlie. If he broke the illusion, they would never believe the truth. That night, when the nurse came with a clipboard, Parker forced his voice steady. He gave small answers, repeating the details she fed him. Otto did the same. Each question felt like walking across ice, but they made it through. Made it. When the nurse left, Parker's hands trembled under the blanket. "I don't know if I can do this." "You can," Otto said. His gaze held no doubt. Days passed. The bruises faded, the pain dulled, and the doctor spoke of sending them home. Parker felt the walls of the hospital close in tighter each day. Each time he looked in the mirror, the reflection unsettled him. It was his own face, yet not his life. The hair parted different, the style of gown different, the weight of the name Charlie hanging in the air each time a nurse called it. On the morning they prepared to leave, Parker found Otto already dressed. The bandages around his wrist looked cleaner, his clothes plain but neat. Otto stood by the window watching cars move across the lot. "They will take us to your home," Otto said without turning. "My home? They think you are Charlie. They think I am Frank. We must follow until we can think." Parker pressed his palm to his temple. The thought of stepping into a stranger's house filled him with unease. Yet he saw no choice. An hour later, their friends arrived with a car. The ride moved through streets Parker did not know, though the trees and hills outside looked familiar. He had grown up not far from here, yet the world outside the glass appeared older, quieter, stripped of everything he recognized. No neon billboards, no streaming ads, no phones in their hands. The car pulled up to a modest house with a porch. The siding needed paint. The garden lay half-kept, but the group moved as if it were home. Parker walked through the doorway with careful steps. The smell of dust and wood filled his lungs. Photographs lined the wall, showing faces he did not know. Frames rested on the table, showing Charlie and Frank smiling together, arms around each other. His chest tightened. Whoever these men were, they had lived lives here. Parker and Otto now stood inside their story without permission. That evening, after the others left, Parker sat on the couch with his hands pressed between his knees. Otto stood near the fireplace, looking at the photos with calm eyes. "They expect us to stay here," Parker said. "Yes." "They think we are together." "Yes." Silence stretched. Parker's throat burned with unspoken fear. What if we can't get back? What if this is it? Otto turned to him. His expression softened for the first time since the accident. "Then we survive." "Together, if we must," Parker met his gaze, unsettled by the weight in his voice. He looked away, staring at the carpet, the old pattern woven tight. The sound of the clock on the wall filled the space between them. That night, lying in the strange bed, Parker thought of the friends who had smiled at him as Charlie. He thought of his boyfriend in 2025, waiting for a reply that would never come. He thought of Otto, steady and calm, sharing this lie with him. His chest rose and fell with slow breaths. He whispered into the dark, though no one answered. "What if I never see home again?" The silence gave him nothing back. The days in the small house gathered weight. Parker woke each morning to light that felt strange through the curtains. Too soft, too muted. The streets outside carried fewer cars than he remembered from his own time, and every passing vehicle looked older, heavier. He counted the years in his mind. 50 years before his birth. His grandparents were teenagers now, living lives that would one day bring him into the world. Yet here he sat, alive already. Otto adjusted to the rhythm with an ease Parker did not understand. He rose early, swept the porch, carried groceries when the friends came by with bags. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words carried weight, as if he had been waiting half a century to let them out. Parker struggled. Each phone he saw sat on a cradle with a cord. Each television offered only a handful of channels. He longed for his own device, for the glow of the screen, for music pulsing through headphones. Here, silence filled the hours. He found himself pacing rooms that were not his, wearing clothes that belonged to Charlie. At night, he lay in bed beside Otto. The house gave them one room, and the friends expected them to share it. Parker kept his body still, eyes fixed on the ceiling while Otto breathed slow and steady beside him. The presence of another man that close unsettled him at first, though he told himself it was safer than being alone. One evening, as the clock on the wall ticked through the quiet, Parker turned to face him. "You don't seem worried." Otto opened his eyes. "I am. I do not show it." "How can you be calm?" "I lost my parents when I was young. I boarded a train that threw me into fire. Then I woke in this time. Calm is the only thing I have left, and it seems to be the main thing that helps you." Parker studied his face in the dim light. Otto's features held a strength Parker wished he could borrow. He turned back to the ceiling and let silence cover them again. The next day, one of the friends came by. Her name was Anna, though Parker often forgot it when nerves clouded his memory. She brought soup, placed it on the counter, and asked if Charlie felt strong enough to walk into town. Parker froze, unsure. Otto stepped in smoothly, resting a hand on Parker's shoulder. "We will walk," he said. "It will help us heal." They left together, the air carrying the smell of wet leaves. The sidewalks were cracked, the shops small, their windows dressed with goods Parker recognized but in older forms. A record store replaced what Parker knew in his time as a coffee shop. A gas station stood on the corner with pumps shaped like relics. Parker kept his head low, afraid of giving himself away with some wrong word. Otto guided him gently, speaking for both of them when neighbors greeted them. Parker followed, his silence masked as shyness. That night, Parker asked, "How did you know what to say?" Otto sat on the edge of the bed, removing his shoes slowly. "I listen. People tell you who they want you to be. Then you give it back to them." Parker absorbed the words, uneasy at how true they felt. His own life in 2025 had followed that same pattern. His boyfriend had told him what to be, and he had obeyed, because it was easier than fighting. The memory stung. He closed his eyes, forcing himself to focus on the here and now. Over the next weeks, they slipped into a rhythm. They went to work at separate jobs. Otto had never seen so much money in his life, and Parker was amazed at how easy it was to survive on so little. Parker learned to cook simple meals from the pantry. Otto taught him how to repair small things around the house, patching holes, tightening screws. The work kept their minds steady, though the question of time pressed heavier each day. One night after supper, Parker broke the silence. "Do you ever think about going back?" Otto paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. "Yes, but I do not think it will happen." "Why not?" "The train threw me 50 years forward. Your car threw you 50 years back. We landed together here. That is no accident. Someone, or something, wanted this." Parker felt a chill move through him. "But why us?" "I do not know. Maybe because we had nothing left in our times." The words cut deep. Parker wanted to deny them, but he remembered the look on his boyfriend's face, the way the messages stacked on his phone. He remembered the emptiness that grew each time he turned on the camera. He had been losing himself long before the crash. Still, the thought of being trapped unsettled him. So we're supposed to live as Charlie and Frank? Pretend until we die? Otto set his fork down, eyes steady on Parker. Not pretend. Survive. Maybe even live. There can be a difference. Parker turned away, unable to hold that gaze. His chest burned with a mix of anger and fear, though he could not tell which carried more weight. The seasons shifted. Leaves browned and fell, then snow came in soft blankets. Parker watched from the window, wrapped in a sweater that smelled faintly of Charlie's cologne. He wondered what the real Charlie and Frank had been like, where their lives had gone, and why he now walked in their place. Otto moved through the days with steady purpose. He shoveled the walk, split firewood, spoke little. Parker sometimes hated him for it. How could he be so sure while Parker's thoughts spun? Yet in the quiet moments when Otto sat near the fire and offered Parker half a smile, a strange warmth grew inside Parker, one he did not want to name yet. One night, Parker found himself studying Otto's hands. Strong, scarred, the hands of someone who had known real labor. He thought of his own, smooth from hours at a keyboard, soft from long daily applications of lotion, especially his right hand. He pulled his gaze away, embarrassed by the thought. Later, as he lay in bed with the sound of Otto's breathing close beside him, Parker whispered into the dark, "What if this is forever?" Otto's voice came quiet but firm. "Then we live it together." Then for the first time, Otto rolled to his side and placed a hand over Parker's chest. The words settled into Parker, heavy and warm at once. He placed his hand over Otto's, closed his eyes and let the thought carry him into uneasy sleep. The years turned without warning. Parker stopped counting the days, then the months. At first he told himself he would find a way back to 2025. As time moved on, that thought dulled, replaced by the shape of the life he now lived. By 1978, the house felt less like a stranger's. Parker planted flowers in the yard. Otto fixed the roof and kept the walls painted. Their friends still visited, laughing and bringing food, and Parker no longer stumbled over their names. They belonged to him now as much as to Charlie. Still, each morning Parker woke with the same question in his mind. How could he live here when his real self had not yet been born? His body breathed, his heart beat. Yet in 27 years, a baby named Parker would enter the world. Where would that leave him? He carried that fear silently, afraid of shaping it into words. Otto noticed, though. Otto always noticed. One summer night, while music drifted faintly from a neighbor's radio, Parker sat on the porch steps, his hands pressed to his knees. Otto joined him, placing 2 bottles of soda between them. He opened his own and drank, then leaned back against the post. "You are restless," Otto said. "I think about time too much," Parker admitted. "You always did." The words startled him. "Always?" "In the hospital." "Even then, you looked at the calendar more than you looked at people." Parker lowered his eyes. "If I'm alive here, how can I be alive again later? What if the world doesn't allow both?" Otto took another drink, his expression calm. "Then the world will decide." Worrying will not change it, Parker wanted to argue, but the quiet strength in Otto's tone silenced him. He looked out at the street instead, where the glow of street lamps stretched across the pavement. For a moment, he let the calm of Otto's presence steady him. By 1980, their lives blended deeper. Records filled shelves, and a vibrant social presence became part of their rhythm. Parker felt freer than he had ever been in 2025. No camera, no boyfriend pushing him into another show, only music, bodies, and a kind of joy that came without cost. Otto moved slower in those spaces, cautious with the noise and lights, but he followed Parker anyway. He stood close, steady, a grounding force in the whirl of color. Parker often felt the press of Otto's hand at the small of his back when crowds grew too close, and something inside him settled each time. Their intimacy grew unspoken. A glance across a room carried more weight than words. A brush of shoulders while washing dishes lingered longer than it needed to. Parker felt the shift, but he did not name it. Naming it meant accepting it, and acceptance meant risking what little certainty he held. Then the news began to spread. Illness among men in cities. Stories of bodies wasting, of fear spreading. By 1982, the word AIDS cut into every conversation. Friends whispered, neighbors avoided certain clubs, and the joy of the late 70s dimmed under the shadow of sickness. Parker watched men they knew grow pale, then vanish. Hospital visits became routine. Otto took to helping quietly, carrying food, sitting beside beds, never turning away. Parker followed, though the sight often left him shaken. One night, after leaving the hospital of a sick friend, Parker collapsed into a chair by the fire. His face looked hollow, and his hands trembled. Otto placed a blanket over his shoulders and sat beside him. "This is not what I imagined," Parker said, voice cracking. "I mean, what's the point of us living through this time? It's fucking awful." The tears streamed freely down his cheeks. "No one imagined it," Otto answered. "No one wanted this. But they don't know shit about it. We could be next. Then we face it." Together, the word lingered. Together. It felt like a vow, heavier than any promise Parker had known. He turned his face toward Otto, studied the man's profile lit by the fire. The gray eyes held steady, unflinching, and Parker felt his chest tighten in a way that frightened and comforted him at once. As the months passed, their roles shifted. They no longer went out dancing as often. They spent more nights writing letters, organizing meetings, raising funds for those struck down by the illness. Parker found strength in speaking, his voice carrying conviction he never knew he held. Otto preferred action, building, supporting, showing up where others faltered. They became known as a pair, though neither spoke openly of what tied them. The bond deepened in quiet touches, in long looks, in the way Parker leaned closer when Otto read the paper aloud in the mornings. By 1984, Parker stopped asking if he would return to 2025. The question lost shape. His life was here now. Yet another fear grew in its place. The calendar crept closer to his own birth year. He counted silently. 21 years left until 2005. Each day shortened that distance. One evening, he confessed it at last. They sat at the kitchen table, dinner plates empty, glasses half full. Parker stared at the clock, then forced the words out. "I'm scared of my own birth." Otto looked at him carefully. "Tell me why." "In 2005, I enter the world, but I am here already. What happens then? Does this body vanish? Do I collapse because I am not meant to be twice?" Otto folded his hands. "We cannot know. But you are alive here. You breathe. You love. You fight. That is real. Do not waste it fearing shadows." The word steadied him for a moment, but fear lingered. He looked down at his hands, at the faint scars he had gained through years of work beside Otto. They proved this life was real, yet the thought of vanishing one day without warning gnawed at him. Later that night, while lying in bed beside Otto, Parker listened to the rhythm of the man's breath. He realized that for nearly a decade, Otto had been his anchor. The thought of losing that anchor filled him with more dread than the thought of vanishing. He whispered into the dark, unsure if Otto was awake. "If time takes me away, I don't want to forget you." For a long moment there was no reply. Then Otto's hand found his, fingers strong and sure. "Then hold on to me now," Otto said softly. The touch carried Parker into sleep, though his mind never stopped circling the fear. The year crept toward the edge of Parker's fear. 2004 turned its last pages, and every day felt sharpened with a weight he could not ignore. He had lived nearly 3 decades in this borrowed time, and the life around him bore the marks of permanence. The yard was wide and green, the house kept strong by repairs, the walls lined with photos that charted years of gatherings and quiet moments. Otto's hair carried more silver now, though his eyes had not lost their steadiness. Parker tried to move through each day with calm, but his thoughts circled tighter the closer January 2005 approached. He knew he had once been born then, the true start of his life in the world he had left behind. He felt the date pressing down like a stone. On a cold evening in December, Parker found himself staring at the calendar pinned above the desk. The square marked January 12th, 2005, glared at him with quiet finality. His chest tightened until he could no longer stay seated. He stepped outside, where the winter air cut at his skin. The street was hushed, lights glowing in windows, faint sounds of families tucked inside. He gripped the railing of the porch and whispered into the dark, "Will I still be here?" The wind answered with silence. Otto joined him after a few minutes. He wore a sweater thick with age, its sleeves rolled to his elbows. He carried no jacket despite the cold. His presence warmed Parker more than any fabric could. "You cannot sleep," Otto said. "No," Parker admitted. His voice carried an edge, thin with strain. Otto stepped closer, placing a hand on Parker's shoulder. "Tell me what claws at you." "The date," Parker said. "It is almost here. My real beginning. What if I vanish? What if I stop existing the moment my younger self cries for the first time?" Otto's grip tightened. His eyes searched Parker's face with a depth that left no space for avoidance. "Then I will hold you until the last moment. And if you remain, we continue. Nothing changes." Parker swallowed, the knot in his throat thick. "I don't want to leave you." "Then stay in every breath you still have," Otto said. The words gave Parker something to cling to, but the fear pressed on. Nights grew restless. He woke often, staring at the ceiling, listening to Otto's breathing beside him, wondering if each sound would be the last he ever heard. The evening before the date, Parker could no longer pretend calm. He moved through the house gathering objects, books he had read, photographs, clothes worn thin by years. He placed them on the bed as if proof of his life could defend him against time itself. Otto entered the room and stood at the door in silence, watching. Finally, Otto crossed the room and lifted a photo from the pile. It showed the two of them at a gathering, smiles wide, shoulders close. He held it between his fingers and spoke gently. "This is proof enough." Parker shook his head. "If I vanish tomorrow, none of this matters. These will be memories no one remembers." "I will remember," Otto said. Parker's throat tightened further. He pressed his hands to his face and sank onto the edge of the bed. Otto placed the photo down and sat beside him, their knees nearly touching. "You fear what you cannot control," Otto said. "I cannot take that fear from you. But I can sit with you in it." They sat in silence, the house surrounding them with the weight of decades. Parker felt his pulse race, every beat counting down. When morning came, the air felt strange, as if the world held its breath. Parker woke before Otto and lay staring at the ceiling. His chest tightened with each passing second. He counted until the number matched his age. Then he rose and moved to the window. Outside, the sky brightened slowly, streaked with pale light. Birds began to stir. Life moved on, unaware of the gravity of the day. Otto stirred behind him. "You are still here," he said, voice low but steady. "For now," Parker whispered. They spent the morning together in silence, moving through ordinary actions. Coffee brewed, bread toasted, dishes washed. Parker kept waiting for the crack in reality, the collapse of all he knew. Each second stretched, his body tense, his eyes flicking toward the clock. Noon came. Parker remained. Afternoon stretched long. Evening fell. When the clock reached midnight, Parker sat frozen on the couch, Otto beside him. Time had passed. The day had ended. He still breathed. Parker pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the steady rhythm. Tears burned his eyes. "I'm still here," he whispered. Otto drew him close, arms wrapping firm around him. "Yes, you are here." Relief broke through Parker in waves. He buried his face against Otto's shoulder, trembling. For the first time since he had crossed into this past, he believed he might not be bound by rules of birth or time. He might truly belong here in this life he had built. Yet beneath the relief, another realization grew. He had spent so long fearing the day that he had not asked the deeper question. If he was free to remain, what would he make of the years still ahead? The thought unsettled him. The future no longer carried a finish line. It carried weight. Otto pulled back slightly, searching his face. "You are quiet." Parker met his gaze. "I thought I would disappear. I didn't. Now I don't know what to do with the rest you live," Otto said simply. "With me." The words settled into Parker's chest with a force greater than fear. He nodded slowly, tears still streaking his cheeks. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to Otto's. The warmth of the contact grounded him. That night, as they lay in bed, Parker felt his body relax in a way it had not for months. For the first time, the future stretched open rather than closing in. Yet with that freedom came a new weight. Every choice now mattered. Every year would not be borrowed but owned. He stared into the dark, Otto's breathing steady beside him, and felt both hope and terror coil together inside him. The weeks after Parker's birthday passed with a strange calm. He woke each morning expecting to feel changed, but the days unfolded in the rhythm of life he and Otto had built together. He rose, made coffee, touched the back of Otto's neck when he passed by, and went about work in their yard or in town. Nothing cracked open. No light took him away. The fear faded, replaced by something heavier. Now that he knew he remained, the question lingered of what he would do with the years ahead. He no longer carried the thought that his life might cut short without warning. The weight of permanence pressed down. One night in late spring, Parker sat on the porch while Otto repaired a loose screen door. The sun hung low, painting the sky in soft shades. Parker traced the lines of his own hands, the veins showing clearer than before. His life in this time felt fixed. He remembered the boy he had been in 2025, restless and uncertain, trapped by an image others controlled. That life felt like a dream pressed under glass. This life bore marks of work, of choices he and Otto made together. Otto looked up from the door, catching Parker's gaze. "You are deep in your thoughts." "I was thinking about where I came from," Parker said, "and how far away it feels now." "Do you miss it?" Otto asked. Parker considered the question. The noise of the past, the pressure of a boyfriend who had treated him like a product, the endless hunger for attention through a screen. He shook his head slowly. "Not really. I think I miss what I never gave myself there. Privacy. Quiet. Space to be seen for more than a face." Otto nodded, returning to his work. "And now you have that." Parker studied him, the way Otto's fingers worked the frame, steady and careful. "Now I have you," he said. The screen snapped into place. Otto looked at him with a small smile. "That too." Summer came. They joined gatherings in town, raised their voices in meetings, stood by friends who needed help standing. Nights filled with grief, joy, and love. Parker learned how to speak to strangers in rooms filled with tension, his voice carrying weight he never thought it could. Otto moved beside him with quiet strength, his presence anchoring Parker when fear threatened to shake him. Through it all, their home remained a place of stillness. Parker planted flowers along the path, colors bright against the grass. Otto repaired the shed, filling it with tools collected through years. They spent evenings listening to records, sometimes in silence, sometimes dancing slowly across the floor. One night, rain tapped against the windows while Parker leaned against Otto on the couch. His mind circled a thought that had haunted him since the beginning. "Do you think the world will ever tell us the truth about what happened?" Otto looked down at him. You mean the light? The accident? The way we came here? Yes, Parker said. It all began in a crash. Both of us pulled away from our time. Sometimes I think about it. If the world showed us once that time could be torn, what if it happens again? Otto thought for a long moment before he answered. If it does, then we choose again. The same as before, Parker tilted his head to meet his eyes. You mean we would stay? Otto's expression softened. I would. In a heartbeat. I'd do it all over again with you. The answer quieted Parker's restless thoughts. He pressed closer, letting the rain and the hum of the record player fill the space between them. The days pressed forward. They aged together, slowly but visibly. Lines deepened around Otto's eyes. Parker's shoulders carried more weight from work and time. They built a life marked not by perfection, but by shared endurance. The second crash came on a day that had started without warning. They drove back from a gathering late at night, the road slick from rain. Parker gripped the wheel, fatigue pressing at the edges of his focus. A flash of headlights cut across their path. Tires screeched, metal crumpled. Light burst once again, white and endless. Parker gasped, finding himself no longer in the car. The pain in his chest vanished. He stood beside Otto in a space without ground or sky, nothing but light and the echo of silence. They were no longer old men in their 70s. They were young again. 20. Like on the day when they first met. Otto reached for his hand, and Parker clasped it tight. A voice surrounded them, not spoken, but felt. It offered release. They could return to the moments before their first accidents. Parker to 2025, Otto to 1925. Each unharmed, lives restored, futures untouched by this detour. Parker's breath caught. He pictured his old apartment, the glow of a computer screen, the boyfriend with sharp words. He thought of the years since, the faces of friends now gone, the marches, the laughter, the quiet nights in their home. He turned to Otto. Otto's face was set with calm. His eyes carried a question but also a certainty. Parker spoke first. I can't go back. That life wasn't mine anymore. This is mine. With you, Otto squeezed his hand. Then we remain. Together the light pulsed, as if acknowledging their choice. Then the weight of the world returned. Pain seared through Parker's ribs, the sound of sirens ringing in his ears. He blinked against the brightness of hospital lights, body broken but alive. Otto lay in a bed beside him, bandaged but breathing, their hands still clasped between the rails. Parker turned his head toward him, throat raw. We stayed. Otto nodded faintly, his grip unwavering. Yes, we did. Relief swept through Parker despite the pain. The world had offered escape, but they had chosen each other. The cost was real. Their bodies carried the marks of the crash, their futures uncertain. Yet the choice anchored them more than any promise could. Days of recovery followed. They moved slowly, stitched and bruised, but together. Friends visited, bringing food, flowers, voices filled with worry and relief. The two men answered with quiet assurance. They were still here. When Parker finally stepped outside again, the air smelled of fresh rain. He stood beside Otto on the hospital steps, both leaning on canes. The world moved around them, cars rushing past, people walking briskly, lives unfolding. Parker drew a breath and looked at Otto. We go forward, Parker said. Otto met his gaze, steady as ever. Yes. Forward. They walked together toward a waiting car, slower than before but side by side. Pain lingered in every step, but so did the certainty of choice. Parker no longer feared vanishing. He no longer searched for answers in the past. The time given to him was here, and Otto was beside him. They did not know how many years remained. They did not know what struggles still waited. What they knew was enough. They had chosen each other, even when offered escape. Parker carried that knowledge in every step, a weight he welcomed, a truth that defined him more than any past could. The night closed around them, but he felt no fear. He had time, he had life, and he had him.
Please make sure you are subscribed and be one of the strange.